Welcome to today's episode. I have one of my bestest friends in the whole world with me today, Lacey. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, yeah. It's so fun to have you here, Kyra. Oh my gosh. I feel like we talk all the time over Marco Polo, but to actually be in real life, it's a super treat. I love it.
It's like magic.
Yes, yeah. So,
anything about yourself?
Yeah. Lacey Egan, living in Gilbert, Arizona. I've known Kyra since you were 13.
Since I was 13, 7 years?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
The best, yeah. So, yeah, living here, married. I have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl.
So cute.
Yeah.
Her and her husband were my Sunday school teachers for the first little bit.
That's right. I forgot about that.
We were 13 and 14-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you were in Young Women forever. Well, not forever, but a while.
A long time.
During my developing years. And then we've just kind of grown together, and it's been fun.
Mm-hmm. I know. I always tell people, I'm like, Kyra, she was, 13, and now she's in college, and we're friends. It's just like, we're
now
friends.
I just say, she was an old Young Woman leader, and now we're friends.
Yeah.
But that's easier for me to say.
Yeah.
But,
no, that's good.
So... yeah, I would say all my friends know who you are because I just talk about you all the time.
Probably likewise.
Yeah. Or I'll be like, look, and we Marco Polo every day.
Right? Yeah.
So, if you guys don't know what Marco Polo is, it's basically like FaceTime on your own schedule. So you just record videos, and then you send them back to one another, and you can watch them whenever, and if you have Plus, you can watch them on like double time speed, which is always nice. I feel less guilty for sending Lacey like 20-minute videos because I know it'll only take her 10 minutes.
That's perfect.
But yeah, I love to just listen when I'm in the car and I just kind of da-da-da while I'm driving. So I think you do the same. Sometimes you like to listen in the car.
I know. It's the best time.
Yeah, it is. My grandma listens to the podcast when she's like doing the garden or something.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just be listening and it's like you're hanging out while you're doing something else.
Yes.
Perfect.
It is perfect.
We have so many fun conversations on Marco Polo that it was kind of hard to decide on one that we wanted to talk about, but we settled on parenting.
Yeah.
Yes, and although I am not a parent, a lot of my classes are focused on parenting, and so I feel like I could talk about this. I'm also the oldest of 6 kids, so I don't know if that gives me any credibility or anything. But definitely. I do want to kind of talk about it today and just kind of discuss just parenting in general and even just being a good person, because that's related to parenting.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Do you want to start us off with anything on your list?
I know. Well, I was just thinking how I am a parent, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't by any means consider myself an expert on parenting or anything like that. It's just something that I care so much about. I love reading parenting books, and I love reading all these tips and all these things, and it's something that I care so much about, which, you might be like, well, yeah, everyone.
No, I don't. I don't think everyone cares about it as much as like you do.
Well,
and that's good. Not good that they don't, but good that you do. But I think there are some things that are really important to care about, and I think that's one of them.
Yeah.
And not everyone puts that as high as it could be, or should be. But so reading things and learning more about parenting is super beneficial, I think, for all parties involved.
Right.
For future people, your kids will even know,
Right.
Sending a well-established adult into the world that has learned good skills and has good things modeled to them and can create their own, not perfect, healthy family.
There you go.
And, I mean, it's just the bounds, no limits.
Right? I know. I think one thing that we've talked about, too, is, like, just that analogy of, if there was, like, a house on fire somewhere and somebody told you, like, hey, there's a $5 bill on the table inside this house that's on fire. Like, if you just go in there, you can have it,
Maybe even a $100 bill.
Right. And it's like, oh, I would never.
Right.
Obviously, nobody would go into that house to get that money. Right. But then if it's changed to like one of your kids, if your kid is that house that's
right.
on fire, there is nothing that could keep you out of that house. And so sometimes I just think about what is the fire that I'm going to walk through so that I can, you know, be the parent that I want to be for my kid, you know? And a lot of that for me is facing the stuff in myself, facing my insecurities, facing my weaknesses. How can I be the best model for my kids? And it's like, when I think about it that way, it's just like, there's, okay, like this is uncomfortable, this is painful, this is whatever, but it's like, it's for me and it's for my kids. Like, so I can be that model. And,
so true.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I think it's a lot about priorities. And a lot of times we're like, oh, no, my priorities are my kids. Well, if your priorities are your kids, then it's important to take care of yourself and teach yourself things, become a better person, because that will influence and be beneficial for your kids.
Yes, hands down. I know there's this quote that's something like, it's not what's taught, it's what's caught.
Yes.
And it's like, you can see that, right? It's like if someone, I mean, just anyone, right? Like actions speak louder than words, whatever it is. But it's like those moments where you don't know that your kids are watching, but they see how you think about yourself or how you talk to yourself or how much you prioritize yourself, you know? It's like if you want your kid to be able to prioritize themselves and love themselves and do all of those things, it's not that you do that for them. It's not what I think about them. It's like what I think about me.
Yeah,
you know?
No, absolutely. And if that goes into what we were talking about just a few minutes ago about marriage and showing your kids that your marriage is really important to you.
Yes.
Because your kids want to hear that your spouse is most important to them. Mm-hmm. 2 of my different professors actually said that. And they're not even related. So family services and psychology, which I guess they're kind of related, but psychology is related to everything. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is both of them said marriage is so important and having your kids know that is so important. And one of the things one of my professors said is he said his daughter asked him, like, am I your favorite? And he was like, I love you so much, but mom's my favorite. Mm-hmm. And she was okay with that answer. Like, that made her happy because the kids want to know that you love your wife or you love your husband.
Yes.
Like, mommy and daddy are happy together, you know, that's what they want. That's what every kid's dream.
Right. Yeah, I love that too, because sometimes it can get easy to feel like, oh, I just want to control something for my kids, right? Or I want to control, like, what they think about something or how they feel about something. But it's so empowering to be like, if I want them to really learn something, the best way to do that is model it. And it's like, oh shoot, if I realize they're picking up on something that isn't ideal, right? It's like,
what am I doing?
Yes, I can bring that power back to myself and be like, okay, how can I be a better model, and how can I show them what's most important, right?
100%.
Yeah.
This isn't the quote of the day, but it's just a quote that I really like. Brene Brown in Dare to Lead or something book. I wish I knew what it was called, but I didn't write it down. She said, in terms of teaching our children to dare greatly in the never enough culture, the question isn't so much, are you parenting the right way, as it is, are you the adult that you want your child to grow up to be?
Yes.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
That's it.
So,
so good.
Brene Brown, there's my cited source. I was just talking about how there's just always sources and things people have said in my head, and so I'll be talking about something and I'll be like, this reminds me when Renlund said this, or when Holland said this, or when Brene Brown said this.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just always writing essays.
It's amazing.
Just always supporting.
Yeah.
She's the one with a doctorate degree, so if you don't trust me,
oh goodness,
trust her. Just kidding.
You got all the trust.
Oh yeah. Another thing she said is, in other words, if we want our children to love and accept who they are, our job is to love and accept who we are.
Yes. See.
Like, that's key.
It is.
That's
it
key.
is.
Especially, you were saying something about talking to yourself, like how you talk to yourself. The self-deprecating things like, oh, I'm not a good mom, or I'm not a good wife, or I'm not a good parent teacher, or like PTA mom, or whatever. Yeah. Like, those things, maybe you're saying that about yourself, but would you ever say that to your kids?
Right.
Hopefully not.
Right.
And, you know, by saying that to yourself and having them listen, like that, they catch that.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
And
even just in little things, like if you make a mistake, or I'm aware, like if I make a wrong turn and we're already late or whatever it is, it's like, oh, sometimes I feel really frustrated.
Absolutely.
And sometimes I still sit in that frustration and I'm like, oh, they're seeing this, you know?
Right.
And sometimes it's like, oh, how do I want to show them I react when I make a mistake, right?
So true. I didn't think about that.
That's frustrating. I did that. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's okay. We're still going to get there a few minutes late. Whatever it is. But just,
No, I love that. I didn't even think about that, too, of how you react when you make a mistake, too. Because obviously it's healthy for your kids to see you in all the different emotions, but then solving that, maybe not solving that, but seeing the aftermath of those feelings.
Right.
Like we were talking about how it's healthy to see your kids fight in a healthy way. Healthy for your kids to see you and your partner fight, as long as they see you make up. And that you're not screaming and yelling at each other, just like not the arguing, but like the disagreeing. That it's important for your kids to see you disagree, but they also have to see you make up. So if you like have this disagreement in front of them and then you make up behind closed doors, or you like have this conversation once they're in bed, that's great. But then they need to see that you've made up as well. Yeah. That's important to see that resolution. So, anyway.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense.
So, one of the things that I've been thinking a little bit about lately is doing something out of fear-based or hope-based. Do I plan for the worst? Like, do I cushion myself so that, if this fails, then at least I'll have a cushion? Or do I jump for it and go for it with hope-based? And you were saying something about this. Do you want to share anything?
Yeah, well, sometimes I feel like, I just want to be a good parent. And I think about, maybe something I wish I would have had, or, whatever it is. And it's like, if I don't do this, if I don't show up in the right way, if I don't say the right words, then this could be, cause trauma. I know, right? Yeah. Exactly. But when I find myself parenting from that place, it's like they are catching the anxiety behind it, right? And it's so it feels different than parenting from a place of hope, like you're saying, right? Hey, I might not know the right thing to say, or I might not, know the exact steps to take right now, but I can show up in love. It's just like being that person instead of worrying about like the little nuances of things say and not to say.
Yeah. We've talked about how one answer that people forget is an okay answer is I don't know. Being like, I don't know, but I can find out for you. Right. Or I don't know, but let's find out together. Yeah. And I think sometimes we have to, we have this need inside of us, but I have to know the answers. I have to be able to be there at all times and make sure I'm perfectly their support system and also their teacher, but then also helping guide them when they're maybe stepping on the path. Right. But I think also just saying, I don't know. Yes. And going from there is okay too.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. I know. So there have been a couple times specifically that I remember that my kids have come to me with questions, and maybe I tried to answer it in the moment, and then I came back later and was like, "Hey, listen, let me actually I've thought about this. Yeah. Now let's talk about it a little more.
Let's have a good conversation about this.
But in the moment, being able to think about, hey, I'm not sure. Or let me think about it and get back to you. I love that.
I want to remember that when I do FSY this summer. Because there were a few times when the youth would ask me a question and I'd be like, and they tell us to be really careful not to be a counselor or to, that sounds wrong because we're all counselors, but
therapist.
To be a therapist or to deal with their mental health or to try to find solutions for them because we are not trained. In fact, I did online training, and one of the questions was, what do you do if a youth comes up to you with mental health or a past sin or doctrinal questions or controversial questions? And the answer is politely remind them that FSY staff are not trained in that way. And I totally understand that, and I think there's definitely a balance because if someone's super, super vulnerable and they're opening up to me and I'm like, I'm sorry, I literally can't train to do this. I think there's a balance between listening and then, being like, I'm not trained or whatever.
Right.
Like, not immediately shutting this down, like, don't talk
to me. I'm
not trained.
I don't know what to do. Yeah.
So, listening is key, number one. And then going from there. And I think that applies with parenting, too. Yeah. Listen. Yes. And then go from there.
Right. I know. There's so many good principles and so many things.
So true.
Why do I not remember this?
This is so good.
But it is. It's so true. So true.
I think one thing, too, is listening to understand rather than listening to respond.
Yes.
And I've totally been caught up in the listening to respond. Like,
for sure.
Okay, so they're saying this, how would I respond?
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to respond? Rather than being like, I'm listening to understand, and then I can respond.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
It's a different perspective.
Totally. One of my friends told me about this parenting book that's like how to talk so kids will listen and listen so kids will talk or something like that. And she's like, honestly, the gist of the book is to pretty much not talk. You know what I mean? It's like if you want to listen so that they'll talk, it's really like you're saying very little. You know, and
guide and support.
Right.
But don't.
Right. Not trying to interject. Well, this is my life experience, and let me tell you what, and lecture, but just really listening.
Well, because you don't want to one up them either,
right?
Like, oh, that's so hard. Well, when I was in high school, because that doesn't make them feel heard.
Totally,
it's like, well, I know that when I open up, mom's gonna,
right.
She's gonna have a worse experience than I did.
Yes,
and then it's not even worth opening up at that point.
Totally, and like you're saying, that's true for anyone. You know, just like
true.
Friends, anyone.
It's true. No, exactly. Yeah. When the conversation gets switched back to them, it's like, okay, I don't need to open up.
Right?
Right. Like, I learned that when I open up with this person, I'm not going to be heard. So then you stop opening up. That's a way of protecting yourself.
Totally.
Back to the fear-based and the hope-based.
Yes.
Yeah,
totally.
I think that stops us from opening up to the same people maybe after they've changed too, out of fear. Like, are they actually going to listen?
Oh, yeah.
Or do I go off my past experiences?
Right.
And it's hard. Because you have to try to protect yourself too.
Right.
Like, I don't want to put myself in a vulnerable position that's not going to be beneficial to anyone.
Right. Well, and especially with kids when they're so young and they're like forming those like, their views of the world and like their like
schemas,
core beliefs,
exactly, psychology terms,
and it's like, oh, is it safe for me to open up, or whatever? If I talk, will someone listen? And if that main adult or whatever in their life always responds a certain way or whatever. But also something we've talked about too is creating a secure attachment. One of like the most important parts of that is repair. And so it's like, I love that because it's like, oh good, I don't have to do it perfectly, but in order for us to have like a good solid relationship and a secure attachment, when I make all these mistakes, like if I just go to them and say, hey, listen, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it like that, that's actually a really positive thing for that relationship.
Absolutely. So. I love that. You don't have to be perfect. Just go and repair.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember in my FLHT 2400, my very first semester of college, marriage and family relations. This is actually the same professor I have the same professor again this semester for marital problems and solutions. Mm-hmm. So I actually just searched his name and took another class from him. That's what awesome. I do. I just search professors I like. I'm like, what are they teaching? We learned about how in the developing years, kids, the most important things that they learn are, am I lovable? And something like, will they be there for me when I need them?
Yeah.
And those are the two most important things that they learn from their developing years.
Right.
And so that's something that obviously you want to focus on. Like, are you lovable? Yes. Always lovable.
Right.
Am I going to be there for you as best as I can? And if I'm not, then I'm going to be, like, eventually get there.
Right.
So, repairing. I like that. I didn't even think about that either.
Yeah. I feel like it just gives, again, when I get stuck in that, like, fear-based whatever, it's like there's room to exhale. There's room for mistakes here, right? Just, which is good because, like we said, there's no perfection in it. If someone was to be able to even do that and always show up perfectly and always say the right thing for their kid, you're not preparing for them for the real world at all, because nobody's going to respond to them perfectly every time. So the perfect
answer would be to act the way that you're going to act, as long as you go back and repair that relationship.
And apologize.
Yeah, because that won't set them up for success of like, well, why didn't you say the right things?
Right? Everyone says the right thing all the time.
Exactly.
Right. Well, and that's, something I think about too is just with, as much as I love the 3 things to say to your kid when they wake up in the morning, or if you want to connect with your kid, try this. I love, as much as I love those tips and things, I guess kind of going back to the Brene Brown thing, it's like, saying the right thing, air quotes, you
air
know,
quotes.
It's only worth so much if the energy behind it isn't there. If that like, hey, I'm present, I'm here for you, I actually want to know whatever it is, you know? And so,
I think it's all about intention.
Totally.
And your intention behind something. Even just yesterday at Sunday school in church, we were talking about how Jesus replied to the Pharisees and how he called them hypocrites or whatever. And then we started talking about parenting, actually. And he was like, how come when I tell them this, am I like a hypocrite all the time when I don't do the thing that I tell them to do? And we were talking about intention. Like, do you have the intention to do what you told them to do?
Right. Yeah.
And are you actually going to try?
Yes.
Or, you know, and so that's something that comes to mind too, is the intention behind it.
Right.
Like, do I want you to learn? Do I want you to feel loved? Yes.
Right.
I think also being honest with your kids, like, honey, mom is really stressed right now trying to figure out where we're going.
Right.
So I will talk to you in 1 minute. Like, I'll talk to you in 2 minutes, and I'll give you all my attention. But right now, I really need to focus on
right.
Yes. Or whatever. And I think just being honest with them instead of being like, be quiet right now.
Yes, right. Or after the be quiet right now.
Yeah.
Hey, that doesn't have anything to do with you. I'm stressed about getting where we're going.
Perfect. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think, especially if you are known to go back and repair, then, they'll know if you, like, lash out or something. They'll be like, oh, I know mom's just stressed.
Right, yeah.
And then they won't take that internally, hopefully.
Right.
There's
less
likely,
chance.
they're less likely to take that internally of, like, oh, mom doesn't love me or whatever.
Right. Yeah. No, it's all true.
It's all true.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, it is. I feel like this conversation could go on forever, but is there anything else you want to add before we go on to the quote of the day and the word of the day?
Just something else I've been thinking about is, for the past several weeks, I had been in like a funk with just like, I don't know, myself, whatever, everyone, everything.
Right.
It was just like, I felt like I consistently kept like snapping at my kids or not being that patient, not showing up how I wanted to. And something that I saw that like helped me to get out of that was this thing I saw that was like, just pretend you are your future self and you have one day to come back to when your kids are little, and pretend like that day is today. And so that just helped me to just enjoy the present moment with my kids so much. Like, I would just be sitting outside eating breakfast with my daughter and just like almost in tears, like, this is the best. Like, I love today. Really, because everyone talks about how fast it goes, and
you're like, I'm not going to be able to come back to this moment.
Right.
So I might as well enjoy it.
Yes, but right now I can show up. I can like fully show up for my daughter, for myself, for my family, and it's just, that has been so good. So I love that.
Something I live by is your time machine is now.
Oh, yes.
Your time machine is today.
I love that.
Like, in the future, you're going to wish you had a time machine to go back and do this and this and this and this. Well, your time machine is today.
Yes.
Like, right now is the day.
Yes.
You can't go back to yesterday, so today is your time machine.
Yes. I know. This random Monday in the middle of, what is it? May? Right. Like, this is your life. Today is the day.
This
I love
is
that.
your time machine. And in the future, you're going to be grateful that that was your mindset.
Yes.
That today was your time machine.
Yes.
That you changed things today.
Yes. I love that.
Yes. So, anyway, that's our little thing for today. Let's share the quote of the day. Do you want to read that? The quote of the day?
Yeah. Okay. Change your present perspective and change what you think and do, and you can change your future. You're not a slave to your past. Your present situation may be the result of some of the decisions you made in your past, but your future will be the result of the decisions you make now.
I love how when we're talking about something, it relates perfect to the quote.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
crazy, actually.
I did so great.
Good job.
I picked it out great. No, I'm just kidding. Sometimes
awesome.
It does not end that way, and sometimes I'm like, hey, here's the quote of the day, which wanted to be related, but is not at all. With all these tangents we've taken.
Point. Yeah.
This is by Van Epp, and he actually was an author of the book called How to Avoid Falling in Love with a Jerk. And it was one of the books I read for one of my college courses. Super good book, by the way. And it's not just like before you actually get married too. Like, you can read it just for friends or whatever. Yeah, that's one of the things that it was talking about, that today is the day that you can make decisions, and the future you will be grateful. Or anyway.
Yeah.
So, love that. And then the word of the day is ebullient. I don't know how to say that word, but it's Ebulliient, ebullient. And it's an adjective, and it is exuberant, buoyant, cheerful, joyful, cheery, merry, sunny, breezy, jaunty, lighthearted, high-spirited, exhilarated, elated, jubilant, animated, vivacious, enthusiastic, bubbly, and I mean, first of all, I feel like we've had an ebullient conversation.
Well, I love that.
But also enjoying the ebullient days of your life, the ways that are cheery and joyful and, lighthearted.
Yeah.
You were just talking about having breakfast with your daughter out back. Like that,
Yeah.
I can just picture it.
Yeah.
Like birds are tweeting
Yes.
and you're just eating dinner or breakfast and
Yes.
she says something funny and
Yes.
you think it's hilarious and
Yes.
so smiley, ebullient. So think about something in your week this week that is ebullient, that makes you cheerful and joyful. But yeah, the example sentence is the superb weather put him in an ebullient mood. So there you go.
I love it.
I love learning new words. I think it's so fun.
Yeah.
And it has actually paid off so many times. Just randomly I'll hear a word and be like, oh, I know what that means.
That's awesome.
I don't know if you listened to the podcast episode where it was on a test. One of the words that I had learned recently was on one of my tests.
Yeah.
And it could have been the right answer, if that makes sense. Like, if I didn't know what the word meant,
Yeah.
it could have been the right answer. It fit with the words.
Yeah.
But I knew what it meant, and I was like, that is not the answer.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, basically learning new words could help you get a better grade.
Yeah.
And it has. It did. I didn't pick that answer. I knew it was wrong.
That's awesome.
It was like the venerance or something, or venerability.
Oh.
And that means like respect.
Right.
And the question was about ageism, so like disrespect. And so I was like, no, it's not that one.
There you go.
It's not about the respect part.
Yes.
So anyway,
That's awesome.
That's super not related at all. But that's how I roll. So there you go.
It's perfect.
Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Embrace imperfection, find meaning, satisfaction, and joy from the journey. I'm Kyra.
I'm Lacey.
And this is Imperfectly Broken, the podcast.
Do 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 do.